Hi, I've talked before how I really like Nikon cameras, and Nikon went through an interesting change of cameras from their classic Nicomax into the EL, into the Nikon FG, FE, FMs. And then in the 90s, they produced things like the 601 and the F401. 94, they came out with this camera, the F70, which was preceded by the F80, and the F80 is a fantastic camera, and you don't hear an awful lot of the F70. And I think that is partly because it was only around for a couple of years, and it is a little bit of a strange design. It has a sort of rainbow, almost semicircular program system. The camera itself is quite substantial. It's a tiny bit of a sort of plastic body. It is autofocus. I've talked previously about the F601M, which was a manual focus camera. This is autofocus, and it came with the bayonet is still the F, but you've got an autofocus lens on it. And if I go through the camera, very easy to load it. I've just had a film through it, and it's DX coded, so that's nice and straightforward. Film goes in there, automatic loading, but it feeds from there. It's not like the Canon, which takes it all in first. You have this sliding switch on the top, which is very similar to the sliding switch on the F90. And where the camera gets interesting is how you set. You've got the null here, which will take you from, if we start with the types of program you can do, you have to decide your function. So I'm going to start with the mode function, and then on the mode function I can go from a program mode. If it's program, it obviously needs to be on the smallest aperture, f22 on this lens, and then I have, once I am in the program mode, I use the set to then change from a program 1 to a manual, aperture priority, shutter priority. So those are my main modes. I have as well, as well as the 4 program, aperture priority, shutter priority and manual, you have a scene mode, and when it is in PS, program scene, you press the program S here, and you can go from a portrait to a group to a landscape to a macro to a sport mode with I think that's a sport, no sorry, it's a sunset mode, a landscape at night, and I think another sports mode, a sport blurred mode. So the program scene, sport blurred, landscape at night, sunset, sport, macro, landscape, landscape with people, and portrait, and that's on the PS. When you press the function, you also go through a aperture, a metering mode, a flash mode, and on the other side, single shutter or motorized. I think there's a manual focus mode as well there. So the function to set those functions there. Once you've got your brain around it, it's actually a really nice camera to use. The Viewfinder is incredibly clear. It has got some central lines because you can use it on panoramic mode as well. It has got a flash, and again this was quite a new feature, pop-up flash. The strangest thing, as I've said before, is this slightly different array of functions. You've also got a button on the front for autofocus and for manual. The lens comes off in a very straightforward manner. What I did find slightly confusing was when I was using it, and it was a great camera to use, especially on aperture priority and on program. The great viewfinder, as I said before, the viewfinder reminds me of my D300 actually, and you can see how the classic Nikon build on with the camera. There's a sort of DNA with Nikons, and you can definitely see that in this display is fantastic. I've got all that information I need. I've got the shutter speed, I've got the f-stop, I've got the metering mode, I've got the focusing mode. It's all in my viewfinder. Ergonomically, it's really nice to use. What I was slightly confused about was after putting a film through, got to the end of the film, I couldn't see an easy way to get the film back. Obviously the F80 and cameras which followed get to the end of the film and they just rewind it. On here apparently you have got a way of taking out mid-roll within and out, but to actually rewind the film at the end you have to press both of these little red buttons, and that will then rewind your film, and it's got a special quiet rewind. So that is the F70. I was lucky with this one. Normally I buy through camera fairs or eBay, through camera clubs. Charity shops I find occasionally find a camera, but not very often. Last summer I was in Poole in Dorset, just going down the high street, popped into a charity street. Have you got any cameras? Oh yes, we've got this one, and they had this body here. I was surprised to get it for as low as £5. Didn't have a lens. I then had to pay £35 for a lens. And I think the battery was about £7. However, I've been really pleased with how usable it is. Tiny bit heavy, slightly odd menu, but once you get used to it, it's quite an enjoyable camera with character. I put some photos on I've used with it. I was really pleased with the camera. It's a camera worth having a go at.